That's all it took to change the course of Chennedy Carter's WNBA career. When she delivered a hard off-ball hit to rookie Caitlin Clark during a nationally televised game in 2024, it instantly became one of the most talked-about moments in WNBA history. Within hours, the video had spread across social media, sports shows were debating it, and fans were arguing over whether it was simply physical basketball, or something that crossed the line. At the time, many people believed the controversy would disappear after a few days. It didn't. Over the next 2 years, Carter's career took a dramatic turn. She was no longer just being judged by her talent. Questions about reputation, team fit, and professionalism followed her from one opportunity to the next. Eventually, after a brief return to the WNBA with the Las Vegas Aces, that opportunity came to an end as well. So what actually happened? Was one controversial play really enough to derail the career of one of the league's most talented scorers? Or is there a much bigger story that most fans never heard? Stay with us, because when you look at the full timeline, from Atlanta to Chicago, from overseas basketball to Las Vegas, you'll see why this story is about much more than a single foul. Before we dive in, if you enjoy fact-based WNBA coverage, player stories, and in-depth basketball analysis, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We focus on verified information, game footage, and the full context behind the biggest stories in women's basketball, not just the headlines. Now, let's rewind to the moment that changed everything. That decision only intensified the discussion. On June 1, 2024, the Indiana Fever faced the Chicago Sky in one of the most anticipated matchups of the young WNBA season. Much of the attention was on Caitlin Clark, whose arrival in the league had already brought record television ratings, sold-out arenas, and unprecedented media attention. Late in the game, with Indiana holding a narrow lead, play had briefly stopped after a made basket. As Clark turned to get into position for the next possession, Chennedy Carter made contact away from the ball, knocking Clark to the floor. Officials initially ruled it a common foul. But as replay angles spread across social media, the incident quickly became the biggest talking point of the night. Fans questioned whether the contact was simply part of a physical game, or whether it deserved a harsher penalty. After reviewing the play, the WNBA later upgraded the foul to a flagrant one, saying the contact met the league's standard for unnecessary contact. Some believed the upgrade was the correct call. Others argued the controversy had grown larger because it involved one of the league's newest stars. Regardless of which side fans supported, one thing was undeniable. The moment became one of the defining storylines of the 2024 WNBA season. And for Chennedy Carter, it marked the beginning of a period in which basketball was no longer the only thing people were talking about. As soon as the replay hit television screens, everyone started asking the same question. Was this simply hard basketball, or something more? With just a few minutes remaining, Chennedy Carter scored for the Chicago Sky. As Indiana prepared to inbound the ball, Caitlin Clark turned away from the play to get into position. Then, away from the ball, Carter made forceful contact with Clark, sending the Fever rookie to the floor. The officials immediately called a foul, but they ruled it an away-from-the-play common foul. At first, the game moved on. There was no lengthy review. No ejection. No flagrant foul announced on the court. For a few moments, it seemed like the play would simply become another physical sequence in a highly competitive game. But that changed within minutes. As television replays spread across social media, fans began slowing down the footage frame by frame. The replay showed Clark wasn't attempting to make a play on the ball. She wasn't expecting contact. Instead, she had already turned her attention toward the next possession when Carter delivered the hit. Almost immediately, debate exploded across sports media. Some fans argued the contact crossed the line because it happened away from the ball, and once again, the spotlight remained on women's basketball. But perhaps the most surprising reaction came from Caitlin Clark. The incident also fueled broader conversations about officiating across the WNBA. Analysts questioned whether referees needed greater use of replay for off-ball contact. Former players debated where the line should be drawn. Others believed physical play has always been part of professional basketball, and that the reaction was becoming bigger than the foul itself. The discussion quickly reached the league office. After reviewing the play, the WNBA upgraded the foul to a flagrant one. That post-game decision became just as significant as the play itself. For many fans, it raised another question. Between tough defense and unnecessary physicality. Determining the contact met the league's standard for unnecessary contact. Herself When reporters asked about the play after the game, Clark didn't call for additional punishment. She didn't criticize Carter personally. Instead, she kept the focus on basketball. She acknowledged that the league is physical, said emotions can run high during games, and emphasized that Indiana needed to move on and execute the next possession. It was a measured response that drew praise from many around the basketball world. While the public debate continued online, Clark appeared more interested in preparing for the next game than extending the controversy. Chennedy Carter took a different approach. When reporters asked her about the incident, she declined to discuss Clark, ending the exchange almost immediately. That brief response quickly became another headline. It wasn't necessarily because players have to answer every question. Professional athletes often decline interviews or avoid discussing opponents. But in this case, the combination of the on-court incident and the short post-game response kept the story alive for days. Every sports network seemed to have an opinion. Social media clips accumulated millions of views. National talk shows debated sportsmanship, competitiveness, and how rising stars should be treated. And what began as a single off-ball foul transformed into one of the defining conversations of the 2024 WNBA season. The basketball itself had almost become secondary. Because from that point forward, Chennedy Carter wasn't only being evaluated by her scoring ability. She was also being judged by a reputation that would follow her long after the final buzzer. The question was no longer just about one play. It became whether that moment would influence how teams viewed her in the future. As it turned out, that question would become far more important than anyone realized. As the 2024 season came to an end, the conversation around Chennedy Carter had shifted. No one questioned her talent. Few players in the league could match her explosiveness off the dribble, or her ability to create points in isolation. On her best nights, she looked like one of the most dynamic guards in the WNBA. The bigger question wasn't about ability. It was about fit. When the offseason arrived, the Chicago Sky chose not to extend Carter a qualifying offer, making her an unrestricted free agent. That decision surprised many fans because statistically, she had been one of Chicago's most productive offensive players during the season. Naturally, speculation followed. Some believed the decision was entirely basketball-related. Others wondered whether chemistry, consistency, and long-term roster planning also played a role. The organization never publicly pointed to a single reason, and without direct confirmation, it's impossible to reduce the decision to one issue alone. What is clear is that Carter suddenly found herself searching for another opportunity in the WNBA. While waiting for that chance, she continued doing what she's done throughout her career, playing basketball. Like many WNBA players, Carter spent the offseason competing overseas, where international leagues provide athletes with additional playing opportunities and income during the WNBA offseason. On the court, her scoring ability remained evident. She continued showing the quick first step, aggressive drives, and offensive creativity that made her a first-round draft pick and one of the league's most naturally gifted guards. But even while she was producing overseas, much of the conversation back in the United States wasn't about her numbers. It was about her reputation. In professional sports, perception can become almost as influential as performance. Once a narrative takes hold, every interview, every social media post, and every roster move is viewed through that same lens. For Carter, the discussion extended far beyond one game or one foul. Supporters argued that she had been unfairly defined by a single controversial moment, and deserved to be judged primarily by her basketball skills. Critics countered that talent alone isn't enough in a professional league where coaches also value consistency, accountability, and how players fit within a team's culture. Neither perspective tells the entire story. The reality is that WNBA front offices evaluate players using many factors: production, health, roster needs, salary cap flexibility, positional depth, and team chemistry. Those decisions are rarely based on one highlight or one controversy. Still, the public conversation surrounding Carter remained impossible to ignore. Every rumor about her future generated headlines. Every free agent update sparked debate among fans. Would another franchise take a chance on one of the league's most gifted scorers? Or had the events of 2024 permanently changed how teams viewed her? For months, those questions went unanswered. Then, a new opportunity finally arrived. One of the WNBA's most successful organizations, the Las Vegas Aces, gave Carter another chance to prove she belonged. For many observers, it looked like the fresh start she needed. A championship-caliber team, veteran leadership, an experienced coaching staff, and an opportunity to shift the conversation back where Carter wanted it all along: on basketball. But as the next chapter unfolded, it became clear that rebuilding a reputation can be just as challenging as rebuilding a career. And once again, Chennedy Carter found herself at the center of another difficult chapter. For a while, it looked like Chennedy Carter was about to write a completely new chapter. After months of uncertainty, the Las Vegas Aces gave the former All-Star guard another opportunity to prove herself. On paper, it seemed like an ideal fit. The Aces were one of the WNBA's premier organizations, led by head coach Becky Hammon and built around stars like Aya Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Jewel Lloyd. Their expectations were simple: compete for another championship. For Carter, it was more than just another contract. It was a chance to reset the narrative. Instead of being remembered for controversy, she had an opportunity to earn a long-term role on one of the league's best teams. Fans immediately began asking the same question. Could this finally be the fresh start she needed? Unfortunately, that opportunity didn't last long. The Aces later moved on from Carter, ending what many hoped would become a successful comeback story. As with most roster decisions in professional sports, teams rarely reveal every factor behind the move. Public reporting and commentary suggested there were questions about overall fit and internal dynamics, but the organization did not provide a detailed public explanation tying the decision to a single issue. That's important to remember. In professional basketball, roster decisions are almost never based on one moment alone. Teams constantly evaluate health, chemistry, salary cap considerations, playing style, depth at each position, and long-term planning. From the outside, fans only see part of that process. The coaches and front office see everything else. That brings us back to the question that has followed Chennedy Carter throughout her career. Has talent ever been the problem? Probably not. Few players possess her speed, first step, or ability to create offense off the dribble. When she's at her best, she can change a game in a matter of minutes. But professional basketball isn't only about individual talent. Championship organizations look for consistency. They look for communication. They look for players who fit within a system over the course of an entire season. Those qualities are often just as valuable as points per game. None of that changes what Carter has already accomplished. She remains one of the most gifted guards to enter the WNBA in recent years, and at just 26 years old, there's still time for another chapter if the right opportunity comes along. We've seen players across professional sports rebuild their careers after setbacks. Sometimes all it takes is the right organization, the right role, and the right timing. Whether that opportunity comes in the WNBA or elsewhere remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The story surrounding Chennedy Carter is far more complex than a single play against Caitlin Clark. That moment became the headline. What followed was a series of basketball decisions, roster changes, public debates, and new opportunities that shaped the next stage of her career. As fans, it's easy to reduce an athlete's journey to one viral clip. The reality is usually much more complicated. Every roster decision has multiple factors. Every team has different priorities. And every player faces challenges the public never fully sees. Only time will tell what comes next for Chennedy Carter. Whether she earns another WNBA opportunity or continues her career elsewhere, her talent has never been in doubt. The next chapter will depend on turning that talent into long-term stability and finding the right fit. Now we'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think Chennedy Carter deserves another full-time opportunity in the WNBA? Was the controversy surrounding the Caitlin Clark incident overblown, or did it have a lasting impact on how teams viewed her? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation respectful. If you enjoyed this fact-based breakdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest WNBA news, player stories, and in-depth analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.